Today I'm going to tell you about the best surveillance vehicle I ever saw. Hi, Larry K, ShadowAnyone.com, and the creator of the Investigator's Ultimate Guide series, premium private investigator training from someone who's been there and done that. This was back in my days when I was working loss prevention, and the surveillance vehicle was a pickup truck being driven around by two guys, and it had an old sofa in the back, in the bed of the pickup truck. And it just looked like two guys moving a sofa. Now, this is a great cover, it's a great surveillance vehicle. You would never in a million years think that they were doing surveillance. How did I know? How did I see this? The problem was they had the perfect setup, but they weren't using it properly. Now, this was a police undercover operation, and they were doing some extra work around Christmas time, watching different parking lots for theft, and they happened to be working in the parking lot for the store that I worked for. I'm also, of course, watching the parking lot for theft, so I see two guys in a beat-up pickup truck drive onto the parking lot and start to drive around up and down the different aisles. It immediately gets my attention, and I watched them as if they were thieves for a few minutes until I saw them meet up with another undercover car that I could clearly tell was police undercover, even though they hadn't alerted us that they were in the area. And I immediately knew what was going on. Now, here's the interesting thing. Here's two police officers, and I know what division they worked for. Here in hindsight, I found out a lot of things. They normally worked uniform. They normally worked out of a cruiser. So they had this real opportunity to use these tools that they don't normally have access to, an unmarked vehicle, working in plain clothes, and it was really quite ideal. The problem is they did not know how to use the tools they had. Here's the thing, when you're looking for theft in a parking lot or anything going on in a parking lot that's not supposed to happen, the secret is to get there, settle into a good observation spot, and just sit back and watch. You very quickly will blend in with the environment, and you will know what belongs there, what doesn't belong there, and very importantly, you will not stand out. Now, I want you just to think for a moment about if you were tasked with or responsible for reducing crime or catching crime in a parking lot, driving up and down and around, you're really not going to see anything. The bad guys don't make a move. It doesn't matter. It could be a little old lady with a walker, and they're not going to break into a car if she's anywhere around. It's just not going to happen. Maybe you know of an exception. Sure, 1 in 100 times it might. But generally speaking, bad guys don't want anybody around. And I have watched many, many break-ins firsthand, and I can tell you that if there's anyone around, they don't do it. So this idea of patrolling up and down in order to catch bad guys is just not the way to do it. If you're looking to deter crime, if you're looking to prevent crime, then yes, a patrol type thing like that will do wonders for you. That'll help a great deal, but that wasn't the goal here. I mean, if you're going to do patrol, you might as well have the marked car and the uniforms. The goal here was to catch people who were going to do the crime anyways. So they had the tools, and think about it, police officers, they've got the radio, they've got access to license plate information, they can call in a helicopter, canine, they've got every resource you can imagine available to them, and they couldn't do the job because they didn't know how. And honestly, I don't blame them at all. No one had trained them, no one taught them about this. Here's the difference. When you know how to do the job, even when you have nothing, you can do a really good job. It's certainly a better job than that. It wasn't this particular day, another day, probably another year. These things all blend together over time. But I was doing parking lot surveillance, and out of an adjacent store that I was not responsible for, I saw a man pushing a shopping cart, and in the shopping cart was a large computer box. This is back when CRT monitors were huge, and it was just, you could obviously see. He just walked out with this computer, and it just struck me as wrong. Just did not quite seem right, and I can't even tell you immediately what. It just didn't seem right. As I watched, he pushed it quite a ways out. There was a car waiting further out in the parking lot for him with a man. opened up the back of the, it was a station wagon, they put the computer in, they closed it down, and they drove off. I got the license plate number. It's not really my responsibility. I wasn't guarding that store, and certainly I'm not going to accuse somebody in a parking lot, but I just knew it wasn't right. I go into the store. To be honest with you, I can't even get anyone's attention. I think there were 7 associates within 50 feet of the front door. None of them would look up to help me. They were talking with each other. Finally, I just go up, I take out my badge, and I say, hey, I need to talk to a manager. They get the manager. I explain, hey, I think somebody walked out with one of your computers. He looks startled. Went down the row of merchandise. Sure enough, there's a big block missing merchandise right exactly where that computer fits. And of course, then they could review the tapes. Now, this guy, the same problem I had with not being able to get help, he took advantage of. In this particular store, you can't just walk out the door. You have to go through a checkout aisle, whether it's open or closed, to get out the door. This man just walked out with a computer. No one took care of him. No one asked him if he needed any help. And then come to find out that this was something that was happening in this particular chain of stores all over the city. But fortunately, I was able to get the license plate number, and that was a big part of what ended up helping unravel it. The very next time they did a theft, they were caught. Here's the interesting thing. Also, at the time I was in the parking lot, there was an undercover police officer working out there. I had no idea whatsoever. He probably was doing a little bit better job, probably was laid back, like I'm trying to teach you how to do, lay back and watch. But here again, he didn't know what he was looking for. If you're looking for the bad guys to just run away, who's running? Yes, that will sometimes catch you a bad guy, and it has for me many, many times. But they don't all run. The smart ones walk away from the crime. So when a uniformed officer came out to take the report, he said, well, I'm surprised, we've got an officer out there somewhere, and he got on the back channel and raised him. And I heard the plainclothes officer say, well, I didn't see anybody run out or anything. Didn't know what to look for. Now, this is no reflection on the police department at all. I think generally police officers do a great job. I don't want their job. I'm happy that they come when we call them. Nothing against them. My point is, being an investigator is a different skill set than being a street cop. And these guys just never learned this stuff. They just didn't do it on a day-to-day basis. They just didn't understand it. What I'm hoping I can share with you is some of these little behind-the-scenes things of what works in the real world. What actually makes a difference when you're out there trying to catch bad guys. I hope you find this information useful. The key thing, if you take nothing else away from it, though, is it doesn't matter, almost completely doesn't matter what gear you have. You can do a really good job if you know what you're doing, and that's the whole point of all the training courses that I have and all that. If you know what you're doing, you can do a lot with very little. And if you don't know what you're doing, even if you have all the resources in the world, you're not going to do it. You're going to mess up. So get the proper training, learn it somewhere. I would love if you learned it from me. I have the stuff over at shadowanyone.com. Great place, great resources. Check out the blog, learn more things. But knowing what you're doing is going to serve you very well. This is Larry K, shadowanyone.com. Remember, do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing.